aggressive list for you.
What side is that?
How do I word this? Your romantic side. Used to see you surrounded by managers and medicine files, often covered in blood.
That's because you usually come around while I'm at work. I'll duty now, waiting for you, eating a garland for the wedding.
Wedding? Who's it?
A dear friend from the academy. Speaking of which, would you go with me?
Sure, why not?
Wonderful. So, it's a date.
Remember that necessary.
Of course. Some soldiers in the car slipped into my satchel. Wasn't sure what you needed it for. So I also took it some amber, aniseed, and tuna. All rather smoky.
Thanks, my good lady.
Shall we?
Let's go.
Totally spot on. This is impressive.
Yeah, that's falling apart.
The family had a hard time. No point is learned on such luxuries. That looks just a little too creepy for me.
Don't have to take if you don't want.
You and I know that Donald Trump has done immense damage to American democracy and American society with his lies, going all the way back to before, during, and after the 2020 election. And that even still today, the lies from Trump directly and his high-profile supporters sow fear, doubt, and uncertainty within the American political system. And it's gotten so bad that even close members of the Trump family are going out and saying that Donald Trump's lies have only really started to become dangerous, that what we've seen thus far has been bad, but it's going to get a heck of a lot worse.
Donald, quote, and his GOP enablers are peddling the second big lie, that January the 6th was just legitimate protest. Talk about that second big lie and how dangerous it is.
Well, this one is exceedingly dangerous, much more dangerous in some ways than the original big lie, because it is stoking people's grievance in a way that is preparing them to take back the government, you know, as if it has been stolen from them. And the fact that January 6th, nobody's been punished for it. We have seditionists currently serving in our government whose goal it is to undermine democracy. Donald is being allowed to stay relevant. He's being allowed to accrue power. And because of that, we're looking at a situation in which it's very possible the Republicans are going to use those accusations of fraud, those grievances that are really stirring up the base and spreading, by the way, to enact these voter suppression laws that may convince Donald that he can run because he won't lose. And that's terrifying.
Yes. And you say that in the New Republic piece. You say initially you thought Donald wouldn't run, he would never put himself in that position again. Now I'm not so sure. You also said there's no coming back from another Trump presidency.
And so what you hear there is Mary Trump. That's Donald Trump's niece. She knows him very well, and she's a trained psychologist. She knows what makes Donald Trump tick. And what she's saying is that back in November, back in January, Donald Trump was dangerous and his lies were dangerous. But they've gotten worse now, that the second big lie, really it's two bigger lies. One, that January 6th wasn't a big deal, and two, Trump can somehow be reinstated without another election. Those lies are even worse than the original big lie because they build on top of it, and two, they encourage direct, potentially violent action against police and other officials and the democratic system more broadly defined. And so what Mary Trump is saying is that this is an inflection point, that Donald Trump, in this desperation, he's convinced himself and he's convinced his supporters that he won last time and that he can come back. And what she noted there was very critical, because I actually disagreed with Mary Trump a few months ago. She was convinced Donald Trump wasn't going to run again. I thought she was wrong, but she's come around to my side on this, I have to say, in part because she knows Donald Trump's ego is even bigger than it was before, and two, she sees how the Republican Party in particular, the leadership of that party, is either complicit or at least not trying to stop Donald Trump and his allies from rigging the next contest. And Trump thinks to himself, if the Republicans get their way to sort of tilt the playing field even more in the Republican favor than it already was, then I can't lose. So it's going to encourage him to run again based on this idea that he's still the rightful guy, and based on the idea that even if he runs a bad campaign, he can still win. So remember all this. Donald Trump is still dangerous. Don't forget that.
In the time we have been on the air tonight, as expected, though, the FDA has just officially approved that extra dose, a third shot for both brands, Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. This is for immunocompromised Americans. That means the additional shots could be available to the folks in this subcategory as soon as this weekend. CDC is expected to work out the specifics tomorrow and then announce them to all of us. We've also learned tonight over 1 million Americans have found their way anyway to get that third shot.
I wish maybe what we're going through now, which is such a painful experience, that people would realize that the common enemy is the virus, not each other. We're in this together, and the only way we're going to conquer this virus is by working together.
The only way we're going to conquer this virus,
Would that everyone agreed on that. Tonight, hospitals across states like Florida and Texas are overwhelmed with patients. Yet to stay on brand and be cheered by the MAGA base, a lot of Republican politicians are anti-maskers in effect, even while their own constituents die. The Atlantic's Adam Serwer sums it up this way, quote, "Something is wrong when an extreme primary electorate has such a stranglehold on Texas, a state of 29 million people, that a public official believes it is against his interest to take basic steps to keep his own constituents alive." So back with us tonight, David Plouffe, former Obama campaign manager and senior advisor to the president, also a member of the board of directors of the Obama Foundation, and Mark McKinnon, former advisor to both George W. Bush and John McCain. He is among the co-hosts of The Circus on Showtime. And Mark, indeed, I'd like to begin with you. Is it a sustainable brand, what Fred Wellman of the Lincoln Project calls this ghoulishness? No masks, no problem. Science be damned, as long as these Republican governors don't piss off the MAGA base.
Well, it's a huge dice roll that's playing with human lives, Brian. And the reality here is that the measures that we're being asked to take now, which is wearing masks and mandating vaccines in some cases, are precisely because of Republican effort, MAGA efforts, Donald Trump supporters' efforts to defy those. I mean, the reason that we have a surge in the Delta variant is because people didn't get vaccines or they wouldn't wear masks. So the kinds of things that the health officials are asking us to do are simply basic safety measures. And the irony is that Republican governors like Texas and Florida are doing exactly the opposite of what Republican orthodoxy generally asks for, which is to let local jurisdictions handle their own business. That's Republican. That's the way Republicans normally govern. Let locals make their own decisions. So it's up is down and down is up. It's kind of an Alice in Wonderland. And I worry that the Republican Party is becoming sort of the grand old pandemic party now by embracing the pandemic and sort of damn the consequences of the health problems.
David Plouffe, I want to play for you the latest from Governor DeSantis in Florida. We'll discuss these remarks on the other side.
I think the non-pharmaceutical interventions we've seen, remember, we were promised that they would end the pandemic, lockdown, school closures, mandates, and it just hasn't done that. This is a very transmissible virus. COVID's not going to go away. We're going to have future, I think, trends. That's just natural.
So, David, as I keep pointing out, this guy went to Harvard and Yale, so maybe to coin a phrase, he does think we're stupid. How much is this, the actions of these Republican governors, going to actually set back the public health fight against a pandemic?
Oh, Brian, enormously so. I mean, we have selfishness and stupidity and sabotage coursing through many state houses in the country. So first of all, you can't think of anything worse, particularly an executive, a governor, a mayor, or president, than to willfully allow your citizens to die, and that's what's happening. We're all going to pay a price for it, by the way, with additional health care costs and things like mask mandates and private sector vaccine mandates. But the politics of this, to me, are puzzling. So listen, let's look at Ron DeSantis. He's kind of the hot new thing for 2024. Maybe he runs, and maybe he'll run for president and say, I defied mask mandates. I think Donald Trump won the election. I wasn't sure the vaccines really worked. And he may win the primary, but, 2/3 of the country, my guess is by the end of the year will be north of 75% of people are vaccinated. They want this pandemic to be over. So, yeah, the tragedy is in most places around the world, they look at